Then there's a virus that's very common among students today. It's called HPV, the most common STD in the world, human papillomavirus. Street name is genital warts, basically warts on your genital area that need to be burned off periodically, either through laser surgery or chemicals. Now, many years ago, we thought that was the only big deal. Get a few warts, burn them off, till we realized a few things about the virus. Number one is this: you can have HPV and you can be giving it to other partners without having warts. In fact, the most cancerous strains of this virus, and there are over 100 strains of HPV, the most cancerous strains don't produce warts at all. Teenagers aren't infecting each other with this because you mean to. You don't mean to. You don't know you have it. Girls, if you do get warts or lesions as a result of being infected with HPV, typically girls, they will be on your cervix. When was the last time you saw your cervix? I had an 8th grade boy in Detroit look up at me and go, "I don't know." He said, "You don't have one, honey, breathe." The cervix is the opening to the uterus, and boys, you don't have one of those either. I know when I say genital warts to teenagers that I might have a few teenagers in here who've had sex who in your mind are doing this. "Well, she said that wart thing, and I have never seen a wart down there." I don't have that. My friend, if you've had sex or sexual contact, and I'm going to define that in a second, and you have not been tested by a doctor for HPV, in boys, that's a blood test that costs in excess of $1,000. There's not a free clinic in the nation that will test boys for this, and no insurance companies pay. We don't test boys for HPV. It's a horribly expensive blood test that is completely inaccurate. It could take 5 years from the time a boy is infected before he would test positive. And yet we have boys saying this to girls: "I don't have anything, I got tested." For what? And how much did it cost you? And I sure hope it's been 5 years since you last had sex. We do test girls for this. It's done in every free clinic the insurance companies pay. We test girls completely differently from boys. We test girls through a thin pap smear or pap test, which is a scraping of the cervix. Why don't we test boys that way? Because you don't have one. Very good, making sure you're awake. We're now requiring every woman who's ever had sex to get a pap test yearly. If you're under the age of 24 and you've had sex, ladies, you are at highest risk. The younger you are, the easier you are to infect, and the more damage to your cervix. Your age matters here. And you need a regular pap test, girls, if you've had sex. A negative pap test doesn't mean you don't have HPV. It means you don't yet have cervical cancer. Some of you have heard that there's a vaccine for this virus. 2006, we released a vaccine called Gardasil. Here's what you need to know about Gardasil. Gardasil originally was only given to girls. They have just recently begun to vaccinate boys. We have no really good idea whether it works for boys or not, but we made $40 billion vaccinating girls, so bring on the boys and the puppies and kittens. It's cash, really. So here it all goes. But here's what we know about girls. Gardasil needs to be given to a girl who is a virgin. If you are not a virgin, the vaccine will do no good, which is why we targeted 11 and 12-year-old girls. Here's the takeaway, girls. Gardasil given to a virgin girl is good for 4 out of the 100 strains of this virus. There are 96 strains still there. This in no way guarantees you will not be infected nor develop cervical cancer. The takeaway, ladies, is every girl, vaccinated or not, within 1 to 3 years of having sex will need a regular pap test. We must screen you. I'm going to remind you, there is a difference between reducing risk and eliminating risk. Gardasil does not eliminate risk. It might reduce risk. It does not eliminate risk, all right? Boys, HPV is a little annoying. Having warts burned off your genital area is painful, I'm sure, I'm guessing. And I would hate to have to be there, guys, when you had to tell the girl you loved and wanted to marry about every single partner you have ever had, because I have to know. My risk of infection with this has nothing to do with whether you used a condom or got tested. My risk of infection has everything to do with where you've been. I have to know every single partner you've ever had.